Today, Donald Trump had a message for the Republican Party on how to defend him against his four criminal indictments.
The Republicans can't let him get away with it. The Republicans have to be tough. The Republicans are great in many ways, but they don't fight as hard for this stuff, and they have to get a lot tougher.
The message seems to have been received by many of the men and women supposedly running against him for the party nomination. Even full-time wokeness fighter Ron DeSantis, who's been a focus of Trump's rage. New reporting shows that in a memo outlining potential strategy for next week's Republican primary debate, allies of the governor of the state where leprosy is returned urged him to defend Trump if he's not there against attacks from Chris Christie, and instead go on the attack against embarrassingly solicitous Trump defender Vivek Ramaswamy. And coming up now, joining me now is Charlie Sykes, MSNBC contributor and editor-at-large of The Bulwark. Okay, give me your strategery evaluation. DeSantis' strategy is now defend Trump. Attack Christie.
Real man of political genius. You're running against a guy who has just been indicted for the first time, faces 90 criminal felony charges. And your and you're behind, what, 39 points in the polls. You need an absolute breakout if you want to win this nomination. And what do they come up with? Defend Donald Trump and attack Vivek. I mean, I don't know whether this is a slow rolling surrender on Ron DeSantis's part, or whether he's just sort of trapped in his loop of knowing that he just has to keep pandering to what he thinks the base wants. So he's got this memo. You attack the media. You attack Joe Biden. You spend like 2 seconds talking about your vision for the future, and then you defend Donald Trump against Chris Christie's attacks, because that will accomplish what? You know, it is interesting hearing the reaction among even some of his fans who are going, you know, why are you wasting our time and our money? If that is your big strategy to beat Donald Trump, is to go out on the stage here in Milwaukee, the first big debate. And what is your mission? Attack Vivek Ramaswamy and defend Donald Trump.
I mean, well, sort of the theory of the case, right, is that they're all running now to take down DeSantis, right? So they're going to attack him probably, right? Because none of them are running against Trump. If they did a show of hands, who likes Trump, they're all going to go, me, right? Except for maybe, you know, Chris Christie. Right. But at this point, do you think Trump shows up? Because he doesn't have to. Like, he doesn't need to show up at all. No,
I've never thought he was going to. I never thought he was going to show up. He's so far ahead in the polls. Plus, I frankly think that he's afraid to be on the stage with Chris Christie. So no, I don't think he's going to show up. And why does he need to show up now? If Ron DeSantis is going to carry water for him, if his number one rival is going to defend him, what is the point? It's not like he needs to show up to get attention, because he's going to be dominating the news cycle next week when he does his perp walk and gets his mug shot. So it's not like he's not going to get a lot of publicity. But you know, the one thing that I do think, I mean, and this, you know, I'm tempted to stick with the sort of the clownishness of all of this, but you would hope, especially listening, and I was thinking about this listening to your last segment, you would hope that at least one or two of those Republican candidates would do the bare minimum and say, hey, at this dangerous moment in American history, we all ought to lower the temperature of our rhetoric, including the former president, because this is dangerous. This is not theoretical. We've seen it over and over again. Churches in Charleston, synagogues in Pittsburgh, stores in El Paso, grocery stores in Buffalo. We've had attacks on FBI offices, pipe bombs sent to journalists. You had, you know, the MAGA extremist who was killed by the FBI in Utah. And I'm just scratching the surface here. Yeah. This is really a dangerous moment. And Donald Trump is flicking matches at a bonfire already covered in kerosene, and not one of the other Republicans is calling on him to tone it down, with the exception of Chris Christie.
And the thing is that, you know, some of them also are lawyers, right? Some of them are supposed to respect the law. I mean, DeSantis is a Harvard-trained lawyer, but at this point, he's just Trump's lawyer. But let's talk a little bit about sort of some of the other kind of atmospherics, I should just say, of this. So a majority of Americans, and we can go through like 4 or 5 polls, actually believe that Trump did commit a crime, that he should be prosecuted. This is now a majority consensus among everybody except Republicans. So it's not as if Donald Trump is becoming more esteemed among the general public as he runs for president more. It's not as if he is raising money to even become president. Like a third of the money he's raising is going right to his legal fees. He's taking the money of working class people who are giving him money and paying for his lawyers when he's supposedly rich. At this point, just the whole atmospherics of this race are a grifter robbing working class Americans and then telling them to go out and fight like hell, and some of them are getting violent. I don't understand how the party is accepting of that, but they are.
A rational political party would look at this, would look at those numbers, look at the situation, and realize we need to move on from this. These polls would suggest that an overwhelming majority of American voters are done with Donald Trump. 64% say they will definitely or probably not vote for him. What part of that don't they understand? Also, the polls are showing, when you dig down in them, that even among Republicans, a relatively small number of Republicans believe Donald Trump when he says, I did nothing wrong. They're willing to say he did something wrong, maybe not felonious. But the number of Americans who believe that Donald Trump is an innocent man is vanishingly small. So here you have the Republican Party looking at all of this, looking at all of the cases against him, all of the trials, all of the felonies, and saying, we're okay with that. We're going to spend 2024 doing that. And my only explanation, I wrote about this morning, is the continuation of this magical thinking that something unicorn, maybe a deadly Big Mac, will solve the problem for him. Because very clearly, they don't want to do it themselves. They want the indictments to take care of the problem, but they're not willing to actually take any of the affirmative steps that a normal political candidate would do who wants to win an election.
Yeah, I mean, on top of that, many of them are running saying that their administration will be dedicated toward creating an exoneration of Donald Trump at the Justice Department, firing anyone who ever offended or prosecute him, and abolish and somehow expunge his multiple impeachments. What a country, what a world, what a party. Charlie Sykes, thank you, my friend. Yeah, super genius. Thank you.